So I recently came up with an idea for a Stephen King top 10 video, and that idea would be to go over Stephen King's top 10 opening lines from his books. Now, opening lines can be either very forgettable or very memorable. Probably one of the most infamous first lines of any novel is "It was a pleasure to burn" from Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. A lot of people know that opening line, and for fantasy lovers, and for Sanderson fans, one of the most infamous first lines of a fantasy novel is "Ash fell from the sky." So originally this video was going to be me picking 10 Stephen King novels that have really good opening lines. But I decided to do something a little bit more ambitious, and I'm actually going to read every opening line from every Stephen King book. Is this a good idea? You be the judge of that. I think it'll be fun. So I have it organized here. I have all of his regular novels, starting in publication order from Carrie all the way down to his newest book, Billy Summers. I've also got the Dark Tower books. Now, a lot of people know the first line of the first book, and I'm going to try to avoid spoilers if there are any of the first lines in here. I did no prep for this, so I don't know if there are spoilers, but if there are, I'll censor myself. And then we've got some nonfiction here. We've got a screenplay, and we have the 7 Richard Bachman books, and we have his short story collections. Now for these, I'm just going to do the first line of the first story. I'm not going to do, the 100 or so short stories or whatever. And then we have the novella collections. And then we have Cycle of the Werewolf, Gwendy's Button Box, Elevation, a few singular novellas there. So, yeah, hopefully that doesn't take too long. It'll probably be a long video, but I'm hoping it'll go by pretty quickly. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first line, and I'm going to just judge it based off of that and see if it's actually a good first line or if it's not. We'll see. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it with Carrie. Now, the first line of Carrie might be interesting because this is written in sort of an epistolary style. Part 1, Bloodsport. All right. So, the first line is literally just news item from the Westover Weekly Enterprise, August 19th, 1966. Not a very good opening line, but, he probably wasn't going for a strong opening line. And then we have Salem's Lot, his vampire novel, and it starts with the prologue. That's just like a little verse there, but what's the first sentence of the prologue? Almost everyone thought the man and the boy were father and son. That's an intriguing opening line. A little ominous. You don't really know who these people are. And they thought they were father and son, implying that they're not. So that's a pretty good opening line. The Shining. I'm sure the first... Okay, that's an introduction. I know the first line is with Jack because it's his interview with that one dude. Job interview. Jack Torrance thought, "Officious little prick." Oh, what a great opening line that is. Yeah, I love that first line. The Stand, this is the original version, so this is much shorter than the fatter one right there, which we'll get to. I don't know if they have the same opening line or not. That'll be interesting to see. All right, chapter 1. Hepcomb's Texaco sat on US 93 just north of Arnett, a peasant 4th Street burg about 110 miles from Houston. I guess more just setting the setting. That's a stupid way to say that, but yeah, it's just introducing us to where the story takes place. Not a fantastic opening line. The Dead Zone, my all-time favorite Stephen King novel. I'm sure it'll have an opening, or a great opening line, the prologue. By the time he graduated from college, John Smith had forgotten all about the bad fall he took on the ice that January day in 1953. That's a pretty good opening line, in my opinion. I might be biased, though, because it's my favorite Stephen King novel of all time, but deal with it. Our Firestarter. Top 10 book for me. Fairly underrated, I would say. But let's see if it has a good opening line or not. All right, New York, Albany. Daddy, I'm tired, the little girl in the red pants and the green blouse said fretfully. All right, well, you're introducing the idea that this is a father-daughter book, I guess. So that's good, I guess, but not a spectacular opening line. How about Cujo? Great book. Surprisingly underrated because it's a classic, but not a lot of people rate it very highly. Once upon a time, not so long ago, a monster came to the small town of Castle Rock, Maine. That's a pretty good opening line, I would say. Not the best, but, you know, get introduced to the idea of there being a monster. That's good. All right, how about Christine? Fairly good book. Not one of his best, but pretty good. Prologue. This is the story of a lover's triangle. I suppose you'd say Arnie Cunningham, Lee Cabot, and of course Christine. All right, that's pretty good. Not a lot of people love triangles, but not your typical love triangle. But yeah, that's a decent first line. A Pet Cemetery. Slightly overrated, in my opinion, but still a worthy King book. Part 1. Chapter 1. Lewis Creed, who had lost his father at 3 and who had never known a grandfather, never expected to find a father as he entered his middle age, but that was exactly what happened. Although he called this man a friend, as a grown man must do when he finds the man who should have been his father relatively late in life. Pretty good first sentence. A little wordy, but gets you introduced right to the character of Lewis Creed and to the theme of death being very important. So, yeah, pretty good first line. And then The Talisman. Oh boy, my least favorite King novel. Watch it have like an amazing first line. Let's see, Jack, lights out. The Alhambra Inn and Gardens. On September 15th, 1981, a boy named Jack Sawyer stood where the water and land come together, hands in the pockets of his jeans, looking out at the steady Atlantic. Not bad, but it goes downhill from there, apparently. Yeah, not a bad first line, but overall, just not a great book, in my opinion. The Eyes of the Dragon. Very good book. Standalone fantasy book with Dark Tower connections. Alright. Once in a kingdom called Delane, there was a king with 2 sons. Pretty simplistic, but overall the writing is pretty simplistic. He wrote it for his daughter, so not terrible, but, you know, pretty simplistic. It. Chunky book. Again, slightly overrated, for my opinion, but still a great book. Chapter 1. The terror, which would not end for another 28 years, if it ever did end, began so far as I know or can tell, with a boat made from a sheet of newspaper floating down a gutter swollen with rain. That is an excellent opening line. That might be the best one yet. Sets the tone right away. Sets the scene right away. Very good opening line. I'm sure... Oh, God, this is such a chunky book here. Damn it. Yeah, I'm sure y'all would agree with me on that. Oh, God, there's so many left. Oh, God. This is going to be a long video, y'all. All right, Misery, my second favorite novel of all time. Number 1. So, if you know what the book is about and you've read it, you know what that means. But out of context, that's not a very good opening line. So, we'll keep that at bay here. The Tommyknockers, Not a great book. Stephen King says this is one of the worst books he's ever written. But let's see if it has a good opening line, shall we? For want of a nail, the kingdom was lost. That's how the catechism goes when you boil it down. It's all right. Biblical, I guess. I don't know. Not great. Not a great book either. The Dark Half, very underrated King book. Not a lot of people have read this one. But let's see. I guess this is the first prologue. Cut him, Machine said. Cut him while I stand here and watch. I want to see the blood flow. Don't make me tell you twice. Now, I don't know if that counts as the first line or if this counts as the first line. People's lives, their real lives, as opposed to their simple physical existences, begin at different times. That's a pretty good first line, if that counts for the first line. Yeah. If you're a King fan and you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. Son of a bitch. And then The Stand, the uncut version, I'm actually curious to see if this has, because, this is obviously revised from the older edition. I don't know if it has a similar, well, it's clearly different. It just says, Sally. Is that really the opening line? Yeah. Just Sally. Okay, I gotta pause. Sorry, my back started hurting and I realized that I was just literally like hunched over my bed, bending down, and just my back started hurting. So now I have a chair, which I probably should have done in the first place. But yeah, so let's continue here. Needful Things. Great book. Top 20 for me all time. And start with the prologue. You've been here before. Sure you have. That's a pretty interesting approach to do second person. Yeah, I like that. It's a different approach. I like that. All right, Gerald's Game. First line of Gerald's Game. Severely underrated on Goodreads, by the way. Like, this has a terrible rating. I got a map of Maine. Jesse could hear the back door banging lightly, randomly, and the October breeze blowing around the house. Okay. You get introduced to the character, the setting, a little ominous. Not bad, but definitely not one of the better ones that we've seen so far. Dolores Claiborne, also a very good novel. Oh, is that a forward? Crap, that's the first line. What did you ask, Andy Bissett? It's fine. The whole story takes place from Dolores Claiborne's. She's narrating everything, so I guess that's an interesting way to start off a book, but not one of the best. Insomnia, in my opinion, this is one of his more overrated books. I didn't love this book. The Dark Tower connections were interesting, but overall, just not one of my favorites. No one, least of all Dr. Litchfield, came right out and told Ralph Roberts that his wife was going to die, but there came a time when Ralph understood without needing to be told. That's actually a fairly good first line, I'll have to admit. Pretty good, but overall, not a great book. Rose Matters starts out great. Like, the first half of this book is pretty good, and then the second half is just wonky bullshit. So maybe it has a fantastic opening line. Sinister Kisses. She sits in the corner trying to draw air out of a room which seemed to have plenty just a few minutes ago and now seems to have none. That's a pretty good first line. You get introduced to the idea of an anxious woman and probably she's in danger. So it's a fairly good first line. The Green Mile. very good, but overall I do enjoy the movie more, which might be unpopular. I don't know. This happened in 1932 when the state penitentiary was still at Cold Mountain. Okay, you get introduced to the setting, the time period. Hello, Tom Hanks. Yeah, not spectacular, but it gets the job done. Desperation. A little overrated in my opinion. I typically like The Regulators more, but a lot of people do love this book. Oh, Jesus, gross. For this book, that makes perfect sense. Why that would be the first line. I think technically that was the first 3 lines, but, you know, whatever. Pretty good, I will admit. It's a good way to start, you know, a horror novel. Bag of Bones. This one I do want to reread, but I do remember not loving this book. But a lot of people do love it, so what do I know? Bag of Bones, Chapter 1. On a very hot day in August of 1994, my wife told me she was going down to the Dairy Rite Aid to pick up a refill on her sinus medication prescription. This is stuff you can buy over the counter these days, I believe. All right. So you get introduced to the idea of a married couple, and more importantly, that it's in first person. King doesn't normally write in first person, which I think he should do more. I think he does a very good job with it. But yeah, that's a pretty good first line. And I cannot, for the life of me, get this in here. There we go. All right. Trying to get comfortable here, folks. All right. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Fairly good book. The very first King book that I read, and a buddy of mine, Sharon Dwyer, just read this, and she really liked it and was very scared by it. So I might have to go back and reread this. Pre-game. The world had teeth, and it could bite you with them anytime it wanted. That's a really good first line. You know, and from the nature of this book, it's about a girl who gets lost in the woods. I think that's a spectacular first line. Yeah, so far this and It and The Shining all have very good first lines. I'm gonna keep that over there. I might do like a top whatever list at the end. Trying to keep track of these. Dreamcatcher, you know, not one of his best, but a lot of people say it's his absolute worst, which I do not agree with. I think he has much worse books than this. Part 1 of this book is amazing. Actually, yeah, the first line of this might just be like newspaper stuff. First, the news. From the East Oregonian, June 25th, 1947. Fire control officer spots flying saucers. Well, you get introduced right to the idea of extraterrestrials, so, but again, not really a typical first line. Not great. Hearts in Atlantis. Pretty good mosaic novel. 2 novellas and 3 short stories that somewhat intermingle towards the end. And let's see. First line of The Low Men in Yellow Coats. Bobby Garfield's father had been one of those fellows who start losing their hair in their 20s and are completely bald by the age of 45 or so. That one doesn't really do it for me. I don't know. Maybe y'all like it more than I do, but that one didn't really stick out. And then this, Black House, is the only King book that I've never been able to finish. Like I said, The Talisman's my least favorite. This is the sequel to The Talisman, and I've never been able to finish it. Let's see what the first sentence is. Right here and now, as an old friend used to say, we are in the fluid present, where clear-sightedness never guarantees perfect vision. No wonder I didn't want to read this book. Yeah, I don't know. I will eventually force myself to finish it one day, just for completionist sake, but I just have no interest. From a Buick 8. Slightly underrated. Not a fantastic King book, but a lot of people say it's trash. I would tend to disagree. Let's see what the first line is. Now, Sandy. Kurt Wilcox's boy came around the barracks a lot the year after his father died. I mean a lot. But nobody ever told him get out of the way or asked him what in the hell he was doing there again. You get a lot of information in that first line. You get the idea of Kurt Wilcox, and he had a boy, and the boy's father died, and, you know, you get a lot of information in that first line. I like it. I like that first line. And we're going to go with The Colorado Kid, which a lot of people hate, especially on Goodreads. Terrible Goodreads rating. But I enjoy it for what it is. I really do. Okay. That's not the start of the book. God, this is going to be such a long video. I might have to split this into 2 parts. Oh, man. After deciding he would get nothing of interest from the 2 old men who compromised the entire staff of the Weekly Islander, the feature writer from the Boston Globe took a look at his watch, remarked that he could just make the 1:30 ferry back to the mainland if he hurried, thanked them for their time, dropped some money on the tablecloth, weighted it down with the salt shaker so the stiffish onshore breeze wouldn't blow it away, and hurried down the stone steps from the Grey Gull's patio dining area toward Bay Street and the little town below. Jesus Christ, that's a long sentence. Oh, man. Maybe people DNF'd the book after that first run-on sentence. Damn. But yeah, very underrated book. But yeah, that's a bit of a run-on sentence. And Cell. A lot of people don't like this book. I don't either. But let's see if it has a good opening line. Shall we? The Pulse. The event that came to be known as the Pulse began at 3:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the afternoon of October 1. Kind of bland. Just kind of introduces you to what the conflict is and just, I don't know. There's no characters in that first sentence, which normally King tries to establish a character, but not in that sentence. Not a very good one. Lacey's story, kind of a mixed bag here. There's some parts of it that I like, some parts of it that I really don't like. People usually either love this or hate it. I'm kind of mixed on it. Not one of my favorites. To the public eye, the spouses of well-known writers are all but invisible, and no one knew it better than Liza Landon, however you say that. Yeah, it's decent. You know, you get introduced to the main character and the fact that her husband was a writer. So it gets the job done, but not much else. Doomakey. Underrated King book, one of my all-time favorites. In my top 10 easily. And does it have a good first line? Let's find out. My name is Egbert Freemantle. Well, the book is told entirely from Egbert Freemantle's point of view, and it's in first person, and you find that out in the first line. But overall, you don't really get much more from that, so not fantastic. Under the Dome. Beefy book. Great book. Terrible ending. But does it have a good first line? From 2,000 feet, where Claudette Sanders was taking a flying lesson, the town of Chester's Mill gleamed in the morning light like something freshly made and just set down. Pretty interesting first line. Not bad, but not one of the best. All right, I'm gonna have to scoop my chair over. Okay, and then we have another beefy book, 11/22/63. Again, not one of my favorites, but it does have a great start to it. Like the first 300 or 400 pages or so are excellent. But does it have a good first line? Watershed moment. Harry Dunning graduated with flying colors. Not great. Not bad, but kind of bland. Joyland. Fairly underrated. Not one of his all-time best, but I feel like more people should give this book a chance. Joyland. First line. I had a car, but on most days in that fall of 1973, I walked to Joyland for Mrs. Shoplow's beachside accommodations in the town of Heavens Bay. Fairly good line. You get introduced to the that this book is in the past, that it's in first person, and the setting. So it gets a lot accomplished, but, you know, not fantastic. Red Rum by Stephen... No. Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. I actually not prefer, but I do like this book slightly more than The Shining. But let's see if it has a good opening line. On the second day of December, in a year when a Georgia peanut farmer was doing business in the White House, one of Colorado's great resort hotels burned to the ground. That is another great first line. I like that, so I'm going to go put that with Girl I Love Tom Gordon as a pretty good first line. And then let's do Revival, and then we'll do the Mercedes trilogy as just together. God, I gotta figure out how to hold this camera without getting my fingers. All right. Oh, wait, maybe... Is it upside down now? All right, technical difficulties averted. I got Revival. Great book. Let's see what the first line is. In one way, at least, our lives really are like movies. I really like that one, too. Oh, man. I'm gonna have to, I don't know about y'all, but I really like that one. I'm gonna put that over there. All right. And then we have the trilogy, which the second book is great. The first book is fine. Third book is trash. Trash. But let's see the opening lines for all of them. Augie Odenkirk had a 1997 Datsun that still ran well in spite of high mileage, but gas was expensive, especially for a man with no job, and city center was on the far side of town, so he decided to take the last bus of the night. I don't know. Kind of bland for me. Finders Keepers. An excellent book, in my opinion. Buried Treasure. Wake up, genius! That's pretty good. Starts with dialogue. You don't really know who's speaking yet. But yeah, that's an intriguing first line. I like it. End of Watch. Not a great book. But let's see what the first line is. It's always darkest before the dawn. Yeah, that's just cheesy. Come on, King. You can do better than that. All right, Sleeping Beauties. Slightly underrated. Not that it's like a great King book, but so many people hate this book. Oh, is there a prologue? Yeah, I guess this little bit would count as a prologue. The moth makes Evie laugh. Yeah. That's... I don't really have too much to say about that one. Meh. All right, The Outsider. Great book. Let's move. Get out of there. The Outsider. Great book. Let's see if it's got a good first line or not. It was an unmarked car, just some nondescript American sedan a few years old, but the black wall tires and the three men inside gave it away for what it was. That's fairly good. Yeah. No characters, no description of the setting, but you do get these three, well, I guess there are three characters, three men. I don't know. It's decent. All right, The Institute. It's slightly overrated, in my opinion. Not a bad book, but not good as a lot of people make it out to be, in my mind. Half an hour after Tim Jameson's Delta flight was scheduled to leave Tampa for the bright lights and tall buildings of New York, It was still parked at the gate. I don't know. It's fine. Are y'all enjoying this video? Hopefully y'all haven't clicked away yet. I don't know. This is a lot. All right, later. A very good King book. Where's the first line? I don't like to start with an apology. There's probably even a rule against it, like never ending a sentence with a preposition. But after reading over the 30 pages I've written so far, I feel like I have to. That's a pretty good first line. You get first person and kind of an intriguing start to a book. So yeah, I do like that one. And in fact, I might go ahead and put that over there. Yeah. Billy Summers, his newest novel. I obviously remember what the book is about, but I don't remember what the first line is. Billy Summers sits in the hotel lobby waiting for his ride. That's just bland. Not fantastic. All right, so those are all of his novels that aren't Richard Bachman or Dark Tower. So let's go over those. All right, so Richard Bachman. Start out with Rage here, which is one of my all-time least favorite King books. Let's see how it starts. The morning I got it on was nice. A nice May morning. I don't like that one. The Long Walk, one of my all-time favorite Richard Bachman books. How does that start? An old blue Ford pulled into the guarded parking lot that morning, looking like a small, tired dog after a hard run. It's fine. Not very impressed with these Bachman opening lines yet. Road work. But Vietnam was over and the country was getting on. I guess that's in reference to this line. I don't know why, you don't know why, most likely God don't know why either. It's just government business. Come on, Bachman. What's the best Bachman opening line? Let's see. Where the hell is the first page? Okay. She was squinting at the thermometer and the white light coming through the window. No. All right, Thinner. This is one of the best Bachman books. Chapter 1. Okay. Thinner, the old gypsy man with the rotting nose whispers to William Halleck as Halleck and his wife Heidi come out of the courthouse. That might be the winner for Bachman. Great first line. All right, The Regulators. Very weird novel, I will admit. But I do enjoy it more than Desperation. Let's see. Summer's here. Boo. Not a great first line. All right, Blaze. Oh yeah, that's the disclosure. That's not a part of the book. Chapter 1. George was somewhere in the dark. That one's pretty good. Where is he in the dark? Well, you have to read and find out. All right, so those are the Bachman books. I'd probably say Blaze was pretty good, but Thinner wins that out. Oh man, my back hurts. This was a bad idea. All right, and then Dance Macabre, which is a very boring and dry non-fiction account of horror fiction. Forward, no, let's just go ahead and just start with the first line here. For me, the terror, the real terror, as opposed to whatever demons and boogies which might have been living in my own mind, began on an afternoon on October of 1957. That's actually surprisingly a pretty good line. I will admit. Not bad, Stephen King. Just wish the rest of the book wasn't so damn boring. On writing, an actually great King nonfiction. Oh god, there's like 3 forewords in here. Let's skip these forwards and let's just go to the start of the book. I was stunned by Mary Carr's memoir, The Liars Club. Not great. So that's weird. Like, the better book has a worse opening line than the worst book. That's fairly interesting. Storm of the Century. This is a screenplay, so I'm not really sure how an opening line would work, because it's obviously written differently than a novel. Part 1, Lenoge. Fade in on. Exterior, Main Street, Little Tall Island, late afternoon. Snow is flying past the lens of the camera, at first so fast and so hard we can't see anything at all. So that's weird, because that's a screenplay, so I don't really know how to feel about that. I'm going to go ahead and save the Dark Tower books for last, with a fair warning that if the first lines of any of those books have spoilers, I'm going to try my best to avoid them if at all possible. We'll see, though. But we're going to start with some of these novella collections, and I'm only going to do the first novella for each one. So that would only be 4 instead of 16. It'd save me a little bit of time here, even though this video is going to be extremely long anyway. So yeah, the first novella in here is Rita Hayworth in Shawshank Redemption. There's a guy like me in every state and federal prison in America, I guess. I'm the guy who can get it for you. I messed up the first line there, but either way, it's a very good first line, and I'm going to go ahead and put that over here, along with, let's see, The Shining, and then It. Yeah, let me make a little pile here. So yeah, I've got my little pile of, like, great first lines here. All right, 4 Past Midnight. The first one in here is The Langoliers. I don't know. Nope, that's not, God, all these pages are so thin. Oh, man. Damn it. Where the hell? There we go. Brian Engel rolled the American Pride L1011 to a stop at gate 22 and flicked off the fasten seatbelt light at exactly 10:14 p.m. So it sets the setting and the idea that they're on a plane, but that's about it. Not great. Full Dark, No Stars. This one starts with 1922. Let's see what the first line is. To whom it may concern, my name is Wilfred Leland James, and this is my confession. Ooh, I like that. You're going in the pile here. I enjoy that. If It Bleeds, the first one is Mr. Harrigan's Phone. My hometown was just a village of 600 or so, and still is, although I have moved away. But we had the internet just like the big cities, so my father and I got less and less personal mail. It's fine. Not spectacular, though. Nothing terrible about it. Let's go ahead and start with Cycle of the Werewolf. I like the images in this book. The story's fine, but I enjoy the imagery of this book. Alright. Somewhere high above, the moon shines down, fat and full, but here in Tarker's Mills, a January blizzard has choked the sky with snow. That's pretty good, set in the setting. I don't know if that's the right turn of phrase there. How do you turn a phrase? That's a Family Guy quote for anyone who cares. How do you turn a phrase? All right. Gwendy's Button Box, excellent novella. There are 3 ways up to Castle View from the town of Castle Rock. Route 117, Pleasant Road, and the Suicide Stairs. Ooh, I like that. You're going right in the pile here. That's a great opening line. And there's elevation. Blah. I wouldn't be surprised if this has a terrible opening line. Scott Carey knocked on the door of the Ellis condo unit, and Bob Ellis, everyone in Highland Acres still called him Dr. Bob, although he was 5 years retired, let him in. Let's just move on. Night Shift. First story is Jerusalem's Lot. Come on. Dear Bones, how good it was to step into the cold, draughty hall here at Chapelwatt. Every bone and an ache from that abominable coach, in need of instant release from my distended bladder, and to see a letter addressed in your own inimitable scrawl propped on the obscene little cherry wood table beside the door. That's a mouthful. No. Skeleton Crew. The first, it actually starts with The Mist, which is a novella. Coming of the Storm. This is what happened. Bland. Come on. Nightmares and Dreamscape starts out with Dolan's Cadillac. First line. I waited and watched for 7 years. Not great. Everything's eventual. Maybe eventually we'll find a good short story first line here. Am I right, folks? Autopsy Room 4. It's so dark that for a while, just how long I don't know, I think I'm still unconscious. That's definitely the best one so far. Because he's unconscious, but how is he thinking? That's kind of weird, but not bad, but not fantastic. Just After Sunset starts with, actually I don't know what this starts with. I thought it started with the gingerbread girl. Willa. You don't see what's right in front of your eyes, she said, but sometimes he did. That's fine. And then The Bazaar of Bad Dreams starts out with one of my least favorite novellas, Mile 81. What's the first line in Mile 81? You can't come, his older brother said. Nope. Okay, now my back is really starting to hurt here. Alright, so before I do the Dark Tower novels, here's kind of like my overview of like what I would consider Stephen King's best lines. So The Shining and Dr. Sleep both have great lines. Gwendy's Button Box, 1922 from Full Dark No Stars, Later, Revival, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, It, and Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 already. And clearly, Stephen King's best opening line ever. And one of the, just in general, one of the best opening lines ever in any fiction. Drum roll, please. I mean, y'all already know what it is, but still. Can we get a fucking page here? The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Yep, that's the best. Yep. Going at the top of the stack here. Yeah. Top 10. And then there's 7 more Dark Tower books. Honestly, I don't really know what to expect from these. But we'll go ahead and start. You know, if these do have spoilers, I'll just skip them. Or I'll add a spoiler banner. Because honestly, I don't know if these have spoilers in them or not. Alright. Oh, God. Where's the first chapter? Okay. The gunslinger came awake from a confused dream, which seemed to consist of a single image. That of the sailor in the turret deck from which the man in black had dealt, or purported to deal, the gunslinger's own morning future. That's a pretty good opening line. I'm going to try not to compare it to the gunslinger's opening line. But yeah, that's fairly good. I don't know if that'd be top 10 worthy, but fairly good. The Wastelands. Let's see. It was her 3rd time with live ammunition, and her first time on the draw from the holster Roland had rigged for her. It's pretty good. Yeah. So far, these are all been pretty consistently good. I wonder what the worst opening line for a Dark Tower book would be. no. Ask me a riddle, Blaine invited. So, that's already a spoiler. Crap. And then the second line, I love, fuck you, Roland said. Yeah, these books are starting excellently. But yeah, clearly a spoiler, so I'll have to put a spoiler banner. Remind myself to do that. The wind through the keyhole. Let's see, where's the first line? During the days after they left the Green Palace that wasn't Oz after all, but which was now the tomb of the unpleasant fellow Roland Cottet, had known as the TikTok Man, the boy Jake began to range further and further ahead of Roland, Eddie, and Susanna. That one might be my least favorite so far. I mean, you get an idea of where they are and who's in the scene, but not fantastic. Wolves of the Kala. Put my leg up here. I don't know why, but we got Wolves of the Kala, which is my least favorite Dark Tower novel. We got Prologue Root. Tian was blessed, though few farmers would have used such a word, with 3 patches. Riverfield, where his family had grown rice since time out of mind. Roadside field, where Cod Jeffords had grown sharp root, pumpkin, and corn for those same long years and generations. And son of a bitch, a thankless tract which mostly grew rocks, blisters, and busted hopes. So, I think it makes sense that my main problem with book 5 is that it's long-winded, and it starts out with such a run-on sentence. So that fits perfectly with my feelings towards that book. And then we have Song of Susanna, which is easily the most underrated Dark Tower novel there is. It's so good, but a lot of people do not like it. How long will the magic stay? Out of context, that might not seem like a good first line, but with context, I like it. And then, last but not least, we have The Dark Tower, the conclusion to The Dark Tower. And it begins, Père Don Callahan had once been the Catholic priest of a town Salem's Lot. Oh, shit, I've already fucked up. Père Don Callahan had once been the Catholic priest of a town. Salem's Lot had been its name. That no longer existed on any map. It's interesting that he would start with Callahan. And obviously that's a spoiler. I mean, all of this is probably spoiler. I don't even know if I can include this or not. I'll probably just have to put a little image saying, like, don't watch this if you haven't read the Dark Tower series yet. I don't know. But most of those had fairly good first lines. But clearly, you know, the gunslinger. Like, one of the most infamous first lines of any novel, let alone just King novels. But yeah, that would kind of be my very random, very just put together top 10 list for his best opening lines. The Gunslinger, The Shining, Dr. Sleep, Shawshank Redemption, 1922, Gwyndy's Button Box, later It, and then probably most surprisingly, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. That one I actually probably need to reread. Like I said, the very first King book I ever read back in middle school. And obviously as a kid, reading about a girl who gets lost in the woods wasn't that compelling, but, you know, I think I might enjoy it more as an adult. And yeah, that's kind of my top 10, my loose top 10 out of all of these opening lines. Good God, this is going to be a long video. And I don't really know what else to say, but if you've made it through this entire video, I applaud you, and you are awesome, and you have gained my adoration and respect. Thank you. And long days and pleasant nights.